Good morning, friends. Good morning, friends. We welcome you all from CSE today afternoon India time, and we are very happy to have this webinar today on what we call from toilets to treatment, and just a few slides of opening introduction I have, and then in which I will, of course, introduce the purpose of the webinar and why we are having it, and our esteemed panelists who have joined. So just allow me to screen share. I hope as more and more people will join, we will just allow about a few minutes till more people come in. But let me just, I think I will just start because mine is an opening introduction. You will not miss much if you, those people who will join late. So we are having this World Toilet Day webinar. We had one last year as well, where we had Jackson talking about toilets and why talking about toilets is important. This year we thought we will focus from toilets to treatment because that's the next obvious stage, especially in India, where a lot of work and achievement has been there on open defecation free toilets. And we thought open defecation free systems. So we thought we will look at what has happened in India in the last few years of designing non-seaward sanitation systems, and we will also talk of all other issues related to also the theme of this year's World Toilet Day, which is accelerating change. And we are looking at accelerating change through the kind of treatment we are talking about. So I have with us the panelists, which you see on the screen. Dr. Linda Strand, who works with EVAC as a senior research scientist. Mr. Stephen Reuter, he is the project director, German-African Partnership for Water and Sanitation. Mr. P.K. Mohapatra, he is the engineer-in-chief of Odisha, the state which has done a high level of work in FSM, and also in water and other related issues, not just FSM. Mr. P.K. Srivastava is the additional mission director of Amrut in UP, and he's been a champion in decentralized as well as both water and sanitation work. Mr. V.K. Chaurasia is also a champion in his own right, a joint advisor of the central government nodal ministry Department, Central Public Health and Engineering Environment Organization, and Dhaval Patil is a general manager of EcoSan Services Foundation and Saniverse, the company which he manages. With me is my colleague Jyoti Prasad, and I'm Dipinder Kapoor. So we are hosting this webinar as our contribution towards the issues of accelerating change and achieving universal coverage and outcomes. So we wanted to also say that this webinar we are holding is not a one-off webinar. It is part of our policy and practice forum, which we initiated in April this year, in which we partnered with several organizations whose logo you see down. And the aim was that we focus on inclusive and affordable sanitation and climate change and work towards a paradigm shift in the global south. This policy and practice forum happened in April, and it covered not just sanitation but water also. Just a few slides of why we say we are talking of paradigm change and why we are talking about this initiative, which we started in 2023. So this is a slide which Sunita Narayan presented there, and we believe it's a good description of the work we are doing. We are evolving a sanitation journey. It's not ended, it's not halfway, it's just continuously evolving. And I'm sure Dr. Linda Strand will contribute to the evolving discourse which she has been working on. And where we are today, and what is new, what is old. So we are looking at a lot of themes which may look partly old, partly new, but which are about looking for new solutions, which may be for old works or for new issues. So we believe that sanitation is a right. It should be for all. There is sanitation also has an environmental perspective, which is pollution, and there is a need to also look at water security from a sanitation perspective. A new paradigm for managing excreta from households emerged in the cities of Global South, the FSM intervention, and we need to look at it as a nascent growing initiative which may need several corrections, mistakes may have been committed. But what is most important is that FSM provided a much needed imagination and courage to adopt a different pathway, which was not so far done. And now we need to ensure that what we started works, and our agenda therefore together is to make it work. These are just a few slides in just one state, because Mr. Mahapatra is there, Mr. Srivastava will be there, Dhaval will share about the Indian journey. I am only sharing the kind of scale where CSE is working in one state. And you can see that in a province like UP itself, we have 59 treatment systems which were implemented. We had different technology systems, and this is also a contribution of Dhaval when we tried to actually map out the kind of treatment systems we have in India. We realized that it is nature-based systems and hybrid systems predominantly, and I'm not saying this is the case everywhere, but see, this is how we look at the technology systems which are emerging on the ground. And we try to do an analysis, we try to work on what is there. So in CSE, we tried to look at the experience in different towns, we documented it, we tried to address the gaps which are emerging from there. And this is what we feel represents a challenge for an agenda for a new generation reform, which CSE is pursuing in our work. And of course, with Mr. Mahapatra in Odisha and several other states, we are also in partnering. So what FS treatment systems are there, but the hard work begins that the plants must work at capacity. Then we need to ensure that the technology we are talking about in FSM is robust in terms of standardization and provides guidance. We need to focus also on the reuse aspects of both water as well as sludge. And we need methodologies to track the outcomes for both. We see there is a little fatigue in India and elsewhere. When we talk of FSM, everybody wants to jump towards citywide inclusive sanitation. We are not saying we don't want to, but the fact is that we need to ensure that what has happened is robust and is sustainable. Then we hope we'll be able to make a better jump towards CSE. So this is what CSE has been doing. We have looked at all the works which have been done in our state. What is the status of septage management, say in UP? What is the operations and maintenance aspects? We have tried to document that, analyze that. We have also assessed the performance now after a year, and through a tool which looked at 3-star rating of towns at different levels of performance of septage management. We worked on operations and maintenance, state model bylaws. So these are all enabling guidelines to ensure that the work is sustained. We just don't give up once the construction has happened, but we ensure that the plants become operational. And these, I'll end here because I don't want to, there are a few slides which I'll take up at the end if there is time. But at the moment, let me begin by welcoming Dr. Linda. And just to tell her, I was going through her work which she has done, and it ranged from all the classical steps of first stage of evaluating the characteristics of sludge, looking at treatment systems, looking at treatment system design, then also on the reuse part. So I think she's covered all these aspects, and much of the work I could see started from 2007 onwards, and now we would like to hear from Linda what she would like to present for what she is doing now, and any guidance and input at the international and national level on how to take the FSM agenda forward. Welcome, Linda. I'll get off my screen share now.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm also just sharing my screen.
Yes, you can start.
Great. Thank you very much for the invitation to join this seminar From Toilets to Treatment today. It's really an honor to be participating. As you said in the introduction, I lead a research group that's called MUSE, which stands for Management of Excreta, Wastewater, and Sludge. And today I would like to talk a little bit specifically about terminology. And I'll just start out with 3 examples of where terminology has brought us. The first one is sanitation. It was only in 2002 that sanitation was incorporated into the Millennium Development Goals. And this had a huge impact because prior to this time, development projects were mainly focused on drinking water provision. And the second one is sustainable. In 2003, the United States EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, officially put in their guidelines that non-sewerage sanitation could provide sustainable long-term solutions. So that also brought a lot of credibility to our work. And the third one is treatment. In 2015, this was incorporated into the Sustainable Development Goals, and it's really helped us to increase the awareness of the importance of transport of wastewater to treatment, be it via roads or pipes. So this has brought us a long way, and this recognition has helped us to galvanize our field. So we have an increased public awareness, which can lead to change through political pressure, increased commitment, uptake, and incorporation in national regulations and implementations. We're looking at citywide scales and employing a service delivery approach instead of just infrastructure provision. There's an increase in evidence-based research, and knowledge sharing, education, and mentoring has helped to build a critical mass of engineers, practitioners, and scientists working on sanitation. But we know we still have a long way to go. And this figure is from a recent publication that I co-authored together with authors from the UK, Brazil, Uganda, Vietnam, and Japan. And what you see here in this figure is the three basic existing modes of sanitation service provision. And on the left, we have sewer to treatment. This was originally planned for urban areas where there's a high enough population density to support it. It relies on a flush toilet where then water then conveys waste to treatment. And so it has a fairly liquid wastewater, and the level of technical development is established. Then on the right, we have at-source land-based treatment. This was originally planned for rural areas up to the urban periphery where there isn't enough land available for adequate treatment. And this can be dry toilets or flush toilets. So the wastewater generated is liquid to semi-solid, and the level of technical development is also established. And what we have in the middle is transport to treatment. And this relies on at-source containment and storage.
Linda, your voice is very low, dim, your voice.
My voice is really low.
Louder, please.
Is that better?
Slightly more, please.
Is that better? Okay, now? Now?
Yeah, speak up a little louder.
Yeah, that will work.
Okay, is this loud enough?
Now it's better.
Now you're super loud in my
Continue,
ear
please.
too. Okay, good. Okay, I'll just talk a bit louder then. So what we have in the middle is transport to treatment, and this relies on at-source containment and storage with road-based transport to treatment. And this is what we often call fecal sludge management, and in general, it can often be ill-defined, and it's erroneously described as on-site sanitation because it requires transport away. This mode resulted from rapid urban growth and attempting to transfer solutions that had worked in land-based systems. It's also been exacerbated by societal demand for flush toilets and increased access to water provision. So this misuse of terminology has led to misconceptions that fecal sludge management or on-site sanitation in urban areas is fulfilled with simple technologies or simple solutions, and they're inexpensive and appropriate for low-income or middle-income countries. We don't talk about fecal sludge in Europe. And also another misconception is that it provides equivalent levels of treatment to those associated with land-based treatment in rural areas, which is often not the case based on incomplete containment and service chains. So we know that in reality that the management is much more complex and often does not result in the delivery of safely managed sanitation. So again, why does terminology matter? I think we all agree that in urban areas, excreta must be transported away from the point of production for treatment or safely managed and recycled at the point of production. And the misuse of fecal sludge and on-site sanitation have been confusing or ambiguous, which hampers planning of improvements. And so some people now have switched to using non-sewered sanitation instead of fecal sludge management, but that's also ambiguous. And what you see here are the good friends P and Pooh having a moment of existential angst, where Pooh says, "What does it mean that we're non-sewered?" And P replies, "Yeah, what we are not says nothing about the complexity of how or if we are even safely transported to our final fate." So to illustrate, I'll provide just some more examples of how our increase in scientific knowledge is chipping away at these misconceptions. The first is that fecal sludge, it's not a useful descriptor. Fecal sludge conjures up images of dry, thick, sludge-like feces, when in reality, what is referred to as fecal sludge is typically less than 5% total solids. It includes water from pour or cistern flush toilets, cleansing, bathing, and cooking. And although global statistics on sanitation coverage are limited to household care facilities, the majority of people spend most of their waking time outside the household where they sleep at night, and non-household sources could be 50% of total wastewater production. So it's coming from offices, restaurants, markets, malls, small-scale manufacturing, hotels. And when planning for fecal sludge management, these streams are rarely accounted for, resulting in inadequate management capacity. The next is that septic tanks and pit latrines in urban areas are in fact not septic tanks and pit latrines, which also calls into question what is sometimes meant by septage. And the reality is often a chaotic mixture of inappropriately constructed solutions that attempt to contain and store wastewater on site. And as we saw in the last slide, huge volumes of liquids are flowing into containments, which can be as high as total water consumption also from industry. So I just want to emphasize that on-site storage is not analogous to some form of treatment, and simple leach pits do not replace the pathogen removal that occurs in engineered drain fields in land-based systems. And the liquid coming out of these so-called septic tanks is not safe for transport in open drains or sewers. So in dense urban areas, so-called septic tanks and pit latrines are not analogous to safely managed. The next is that wastewater streams from human feces are not all the same, and this has significant impacts on treatment. So if we think about sewer-based wastewater, wastewater is only referred to as a sludge after it's undergone some type of treatment process. It can consist of settled solids from primary, microorganisms or biomass from biological treatment, and digested biomass. Fecal sludge, on the other hand, is stored at the source from 0 to many, many years prior to batch-wise collection for delivery to treatment. So importantly, at-source storage is not analogous to the anaerobic digestion that's highly process controlled at treatment facilities, and storage is not treatment. So this has led to the misconception that time since last emptied predicts stabilization, which is not correct and does not hold up the scientific investigation, and also misconceptions about appropriate co-treatment. So I submit that the use of accurate and technically robust terminology will improve management decisions and the design of appropriate treatment facilities for the actual flows they are receiving and increase opportunities for resource recovery. And as is the name of this webinar, in our paper, we propose a new vocabulary, how wastewater is transported to treatment. And this is important because otherwise, as we know, wastewater or fecal sludge often does not make it to treatment. So what you see on the bottom left-hand corner, category 1, is fully road transported. So this is what we would call fecal sludge management. And in this case, tanks should be fully sealed to prevent leaching into the environment. And in the paper, we give cases for examples from around the world. And in this case, we give the example of Egypt and Dubai. The next one, category 2, is separate collection of gray water. With gray water could be piped away to treatment or safely managed and recycled at the point of production. And here I would just like to refer to the case of Odisha, which is being presented in this webinar by my colleague, the engineer-in-chief. The next one is category 3, mixed transport. And this could be settled sewerage, where we have interceptor tanks that collect some settled solids with the liquid being piped to treatment, or also the example of Jokaso treatment in Japan, in Tokyo and Osaka. And category 4 is fully pipe transported, which may be conventional or simplified sewerage. So again, I just want to emphasize, I feel we need improved communication and understanding to inform design, decision-making, planning, monitoring, policy, and science, and that we need a globally relevant vocabulary. So I'd like to leave you with that brief introduction as food for thought, and I'm looking forward to hearing your opinions on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. And we would invite our participants, if they have any questions, please raise your hand and then, we will invite you to share your questions. We can have about 3 questions and then we will move to the next one. So we have 2 people here. Let's just see if there are any 3, then we will start. Okay, Mr. Suleiman Ahmed, you can please raise your question to the panelist.
Suleiman, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Suleiman. I am from Kano City, Nigeria. I'm a wash consultant and a practitioner. I'm very much grateful to be part of this webinar. Please, my question is, I have been contacted by Jigawa State government in Nigeria. The state is the first state to attain ODF status in Nigeria, and they want to construct a fecal sludge treatment plant so as to ensure sustainability of the open defecation free status. So please, I would like to have a contact with you so that we'll have maybe a full conversation so as to help the state attain this status of sustainability after ODF status. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. If you want to contact me, it's my email address in the bottom corner of the slide, or you could also use the QR code which goes to our webpage.
All right, thank you. I have your email. We've been in contact. Thank you.
Great.
Sudesh, I would request you to also, you can unmute and ask your question. Mr. Sudesh, Mr. or Ms. Sudesh, can you also speak up now?
So this, please go ahead. It's not.
Mr. Jay Kumar. Jay Kumar, you can unmute.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I am on a new campus development, which is around 650 acres. We would like to go in for low water level sanitation for toilets.
Mr. Jayakumar, this webinar, the first keynote speaker has spoken about terminologies. So, you can always contact her through the contacts. But if there is any question pertaining to the presentation, we were just taking that right now.
Okay, I really enjoyed the presentation. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Linda, I have this question, and the new terminologies you are saying are broken up into essentially what is transported and how it is transported. So how does it impact the work which is being done on the ground? So these terminologies help, or even if they don't help, how do they, sound out what is being done and what should be done in terms of work on the ground?
I think for me, what's really important is a lot of times people throw around loosely the term septic tank and pit latrine in urban areas and then think, okay, there's sanitation coverage, especially maybe the people that aren't as informed. Whereas we know with the fecal sludge management service chain, a key part is transport to treatment. And I think the more clear vocabulary communicates that more clearly, and we can make sure that it's really happening. And also ways that we can reduce using water and contaminating it to transport waste, as will be mentioned, as I said again in the Odisha case study, that all of these different possibilities around the world, all the different examples we could come up with, all fit into that terminology. So for me, it helps to more communicate, to communicate more clearly what people are doing on the ground.
So it's about the liquid and the solid part, and both should be safely transported. That's the core.
Everything needs to be safely transported to treatment.
Okay. Mr. Mahapatra Dhawal, if you have any questions.
No, it is fine. I fully agree with the concept Madam has presented. It is quite relevant. What she says is basically conceptually we must ensure that whether it is black water or grey water, that should be safely transported and treated. So treatment should be safe, and also transportation.
Okay.
If we say only FSM is good enough, no, I say no. We must also take care of the grey water. And the safety aspect and the right kind of treatment is very important. That's what she emphasizes.
Great, thank you. I'm looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you very much for joining, and please stay on. And we have Mr. Srivastava also now with us, and thank you, sir. And I would ask Stephen now to present his work, and then we will come to Mr. Mahapatra and Mr. Srivastava in that sequence, sir.
Thank you. Right. Can you hear me well? This is Stefan speaking.
Loud and clear.
All right. So what a pleasure to be with you, and greetings from Africa, from Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire in West Africa. My name is Stefan, and I'm going to talk about managing wastewater, septic or fecal sludge with distributed modular and small scale treatment systems. And actually, it's a pleasure to connect with India, because I think there's scope for joining both sides in the south to learn as we move on in our sanitation learning journey. I'm working for the German Water Partnership, and I'm hosted here in Abidjan by the African Water and Sanitation Association in West Africa. Before that, I had the privilege to work for some 20 years with the German non-governmental organization Border, based in Bremen, which has also started quite early on working in India. And right now, I'm also still serving on the board of supervisory board of the Fecal Sludge Management Alliance. So my view is really connecting people and let's learn, because what we can fast track is really how fast we learn. So let me skip on the next slide. I'm starting before 2007 because the biogas journey and the treatment of waste and producing energy has started in India even before that. Yashubhai Patel and his Gobar gas plants were in ignition there, and that was boosted after the oil crisis in the 70s. And what you can see down in the middle is a community toilet connected to a biogas plant, a fixed dome biogas plant. So I think the journey of using anaerobic technology, taking out the energy for also treating wastewater from toilets has started quite early on. And in the 90s, despite all the nice biogas technology, people continued moving in big numbers into cities and ended up in deep shit. And that's why a number of people here, the German NGO Border, French, Jerez, 2 Chinese and 3 Indian NGOs between 94 and 96 were putting their heads together and say, okay, how can we expand and build on what we have been developing in order to do some kind of wastewater treatment, because something is better than nothing. So 100 plants with 30% efficiency are more effective than 10 plants with 90% efficiency. And this is not only an issue for the South, but also in Europe. When new member states of the European Union have joined, we traditionally in Europe have been going for the highest treatment efficiency, but meanwhile, a number of wastewater treatment, also agricultural discharge, is going into the Baltic Sea, and we have a lot of anoxic zones there. But the output of that joint effort between China, India, France, and Germany was to come up with a handbook with Excel spreadsheets, and actually the initial title of low maintenance wastewater treatment system was then changed into decentralized wastewater treatment systems, because Lomwards carries unjustly an image of low standards and nobody wants really that. But what was it about? It was actually just 5 points. Prefer gravity flow and prevent electromechanical equipment so that nothing can be switched off, even in power shedding and other difficulties. Go for anaerobic digestion under tropical conditions. Up to 90% of the organic load can be removed. So, and underground tanks of that anaerobic treatment allow for dual use. You can put them into public roads or into parking lots for cars, so you don't need that much of a space. Add nature-based systems for further polishing, like planted gravel filter, polishing ponds where appropriate, and also maybe at a distance where you pool a number of pre-treated wastewater from anaerobic treatment. Reuse water, energy, and nutrients wherever you can, and select and combine treatment modules according to that end use. Think at the end from the beginning. So these are some of the thoughts, and a number of systems were presented, modular modules as and where required. It's not a must that you first start with an anaerobic treatment and then go for the next one. It's just a logical way, but each engineer should assess according to the local condition. CSE has been doing a wonderful webinar 3 years back. So a partner organization in India, CDD Society, has very nicely explained how these systems work. That was a webinar in 2020, and in the minutes from about 1 hour 10 minutes to 1 hour 20 minutes, PG Ganapathy was explaining all the details about decentralized wastewater treatment systems. And actually, it's an organization which brought together more than 17 individual organizations who came together and said, okay, let's build a consortium, let's build a movement. And very early on, CSE India has been part and adopting and is promoting that. In Delhi, this organization, the consortium, happened to stay in Bangalore. So then the next important step was in 2012, when the Central Public Health and Environmental Engineering Organization, CPHEO, integrated both from the engineering part and also from the operation maintenance, these kind of decentralized modules, which is essential for doing DPRs, detailed project reports, public tendering, and then going for procurement. If this is not included in the CPHO manual, public authorities will have a hard time to procure those elements which are needed. So in that very webinar, which I'm referring to, which was happening 3 years back, there was another presentation from our colleagues from Airwag, a neighboring department from Linda. And it was looking at the learnings from revisiting more than 300 of these decentralized systems, and a number of them really drilling holes into them. So what we're looking at here, and let me come back maybe to Linda's category suggestions. We will have a diminishing in India, diminishing part of open defecation, many parts already eliminated. We have centralized sewerage, which will come up. So this picture is showing down left the citywide inclusive sanitation, and graphically so. If you have orange, that means these are on-site systems, category number 1, I suppose, Linda, and you can comment on that interpretation. Right now, some important parts still not safely managed, and maybe we can work on that one with a new terminology from you, Linda. Then we have a small-scale sanitation, which would be, in this case, on that picture, the green color, and the centralized sewerage systems in blue. And this will scale over the next years until we have 100% treatment of everyone. So what does it take? They have been even building a wonderful MOOC, an online module over 10 minutes, where everything and the approach was explained, and also the findings and key takeaways. And I will a little bit delve into that exercise, because I think this is a number of elements have been developed and shown there, and I'm really keen for the case of Africa. What can we learn? Where's India right now? So a number of organizations, the Indian Institute of Technology, Border, CDD India, and also ENFO have been working on that one. And a number of publications have been developed in order to come up with evidence-based recommendations for small-scale sewage treatment plants. And these would be the category 2 and 3 in my understanding of the new categories. So both source separated, maybe gray water treatment apart, or it is mixed source, but then an overflow from our decentralized treatment plant will go somewhere, and still they will have sludge accumulation every 2 to 3 years. Something needs to be emptied and be treated off-site. So what are the recommendations from assessing more than 300 systems? Governance aspects are very important, have been published in this document and with this access key. And what you can see on the left side here is the recommendation not only to look at the CapEx, but at the operational expenditure, OpEx, over a 20-year life cycle cost. And although you can't really see in detail what is happening here, down in that scale, you have the technology, different technologies enumerated with a different capacity in kiloliters per day. So we start with 40 kiloliters per day and end up with systems of 700 kiloliters per day, and different technologies are compared. So now over the 20-year life cycle, you see that some technologies will consume up to 12 or 17 times the initial CapEx in operational expenditure. And because that's a high expenditure, often underestimated, it's important to look at that from the beginning. So there are a number of technologies which only add up to 2 times the initial capital expenditure. The higher you are here, 2 times, 5 times, or maybe 7 times. So this is important to look at, as well as a number of findings when it comes to the overall implementation cycle. What makes sense to implement? I recommend very strongly you revisit the link that I have been sharing and look at these, looking at strategic urban planning, the management part, the technologies. A number of loopholes, as they have been presenting there, may arrive despite the beautiful design of a treatment system. And these elements, I think we want to revisit, and this is where Africa wants to learn from India, where you are right now. So at that time, the experts were recommending an online platform for collating databases, streamlining, supporting processes, and also establishing dedicated small-scale sanitation system departments at the relevant state and city level government. So we have a national level government, the ministry level, the state level, and the city level, and all our decentralized systems need to be taken care of, and it needs special care from specialists. And I'm really interested, and that's almost my last slide. We have 7 recommendations here on that slides. And they said, for example, the Ministry of Habitat, of Housing and Urban Development must spearhead the policy framework. The creation of a centralized online data platform is essential. Urban local bodies and also water and sanitation boards in the municipalities should be able to access and update these databases for small-scale treatment plants to be involved in their planning, better enforcement, a clear standardized procedure for handover, systematic training and licensing of operating personnel on the different systems and tools we have been planning and implementing, and also the life cycle costs. Right now, the CPHEO manual, to my memory from 2013, is saying that a cost analysis needs to be done, but it doesn't mention life cycle costs. So these are questions where I think there's room for learning of African colleagues to learn from the Indian journey. So we would like to foster the South-South learning. We would like to invite Indian actors to join the African colleagues at the African Water and Sanitation Association and other international partners in fast-tracking the adoption of appropriate procedures for safely managed services along the sanitation value chain. A first exchange in that direction already happened with colleagues from CSE and also CDD India at the first National Non-Sewage Sanitation Conference in Joburg in October this year. So there's an invitation to join the African community during the AFWASA International Congress and Exhibition from February 18th to 22nd, 2024 in Conakry, Guinea. Thank you very much. Looking forward to more exchange on the topic.
Thank you so much, Stephen, and thank you for starting with your DWATs. I have a copy you shared with me, so I really value this book, which I feel is like a Bible, I would say, for practitioners and understanding the basic concepts, and also trying to link your presentation with India and the Bangalore experience. So thank you very much for sharing. I would ask for 1 or 2 questions from the participants, if possible. We are running a little behind schedule, so if anyone wants to raise a question, please raise your hand now. Mr. Doda Aswathan. Please focus it on the presentation, not a general question that you can raise in the chat box, and we can take it as part of your input. But if there is any specific question to the presentation made or a comment, please come on that.
Can I just add a comment myself while people are getting ready to ask questions? Or just signaling I have another comment in case no question is coming up.
Mr. Doda, do you have a question?
Yeah, I think he's raised it earlier and all. Okay, you wanted to say something, Stephen?
It's just, very much, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of that WhatsApp group, which is continuing the dialogue of the event you have been referring to earlier this year. So we are continuing that dialogue here. What I took from the communication there is, again, there were questions about this technology or that technology, and I think the exercise of reducing complexity in decentralized treatment systems and encouraging to master the process, even if it is not absolutely sophisticated, but master the process of what is there and then evolve from there. So get a joint and uniform language first, like Linda said in the beginning, agree on language, agree on processes, who's responsible where, because as you also in the introductory slides mentioned, if you start to build something, this is where the journey starts, because you need to keep it running forever. So it may even expand as and where the population grows or new treatment plants are coming up. So the communication and the debate was really, really fascinating. And I think these this needs to be continued, and here's another opportunity to come up with questions. I think the debate where I got kicked was that there's a treatment plant, quite a big one actually, which has stopped functioning or not been operating properly. And is it because of the technology? And I think it's because of a number of elements which have been mentioned before in the follow-up monitoring of systems. So operation and maintenance of these systems is really key, even if you start with the smaller one and then evolve it from there. Sorry, that was a long comment.
You can comment on that discussion group. I would like to now invite Mr. Mahapatra and Vishwanath has asked one question. Stephen, to you. He's saying, nice presentation. In terms of life cycle costs, they also need to be linked to revenues if the opportunity cost of water is high. It makes sense to invest higher amounts in costs because the quality of treatment may lead to recovery of higher quality of water. So he's saying costs can also be justified. I think we will take that. And because we are running out of time, if you can respond, Stephen, on the chat, and I'll invite Mr. Mahapatra to start this.
Actually, I totally agree with what Vishwanath is saying, and it needs to be factored in. Let's revisit. There are nice publications about that, life cycle cost assessment. Let's revisit that, but it's absolutely important to factor that in. Yeah. Agree.
Thank you very much, Dipinder ji, for inviting me. Let me share my screen here. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. We can see. You can continue.
So I welcome you to this presentation. I will be speaking mostly on the FSTP designs in Odisha and also take you through what has been done in Odisha so far. In 2017, in fact, we had a new sanitation policy to manage the sanitation in Odisha in a better way. Odisha has 115 cities, and the urban population in these cities are 7.74 million. And by virtue of the, you can say the town planning or the where the cities are, black water and grey water are separated at source. We have a lot of on-site sanitation systems. So black water flows to those septic tanks and soak pits, and grey water flows in the drains, in the drainage systems. In fact, 5 of our cities, we have established sewer network with STPs. So we would have continued with those sewer network and STPs, but then we learned that this sewerage system is not the ultimate answer for the cities of Odisha. The first is that it is taking a lot of time to build network and STPs in our cities. The per capita cost is also very high. And then NGT, the National Green Tribunal, was coming very heavy on us to manage the sanitation so that we don't pollute our rivers. So then there was a paradigm shift. Then the state decided in 2015 to move to on-site sanitation system, the fecal sludge management systems. In fact, since 2016, we started implementing FSM in all our cities and established the infrastructure necessary for that. The desludging arrangements, the FSTPs we constructed. But as Linda mentioned, simply FSM is not the solution. FSM will not solve the sanitation problem. Now we have started implementing grey water management in all our cities. We started doing pilot in 2 cities. After we learned from the pilot, we started scaling up in 11 cities. And this month onwards, the state decided that we should implement grey water management in all our 110 cities. You can see the picture of our STPs I have shown here. The treatment systems are always high-end systems. We have implemented SBR systems, ASP systems. We have, nature-based systems for grey water management. In fact, for managing grey water that flows in our drains, the approach is very decentralized because it flows in the drains. Our approach is that we have soil absorption systems for containment at the household level for the grey water. And also we have treatment systems, for instance, the wetland systems. So we are adopting wetland systems for treatment of grey water. And also at the outflow level, we are considering low-cost systems like waste stabilization ponds and maturation ponds for the grey water systems. Now, my focus on this presentation is on fecal sludge management. When we started in 2015, that time we didn't have much example in the country. So the only available literature that was there was the famous FSM book by the IAA published book of 2014, and then the D-Words book, which Mr. Stephen was referring to. So they were the handy, books for us to look at the FSTP designs. So we have designed the FSTPs to remove BOD, COD, and TSS. And in the effluent, whatever nutrient was available, nitrogen and phosphorus. So we considered to reuse those effluent in the landscaping within the FSTP premises. We adopted nature-based technology. And the land that we selected were not very far from the city. They were always within 2 to 5 kilometers. By design, we acquired 1 hectare of government land. And most of those land for FSTP were co-located with the solid waste processing sites. And we ensured that the design that we prepared, the process design and the layout and all, they were all vetted by the IIT Kharagpur. So that gave the stamp of authority for us to go ahead with the constructions. To start with, the quantity of FS that is generated in any city, in a city in Odisha. In fact, we looked at the small city nearby Bhubaneswar, the capital city of Odisha. The population there is 50,000 to 100,000. In fact, we went to all the septic tanks. We took the dimensions. We noted down the sludge depth. And what we realized that none of the septic tanks are designed as per the standard. There are various sizes, various dimensions. Then we looked at the sludge depth and try to find out what could be the per capita sludge that is getting generated. In fact, we had adopted the value of 150 liters per capita per annum. And from this data, from the field observation, what we found is 131 liters per capita per year if we go for 3 years desludging period. And when we looked at the IS code, it talks about 76.65 liters per capita per year. Then we are comfortable that whatever design we have adopted, they are well within our quantity that we assume. So it is not neither is under designed or over designed. We have adopted sludge drying bed technology along with dewar system. So we have ABR integrated with anaerobic filter. We have the wetland, or we call it planted gravity filter, integrated with a sand filter. We have a polishing pod integrated with a cascade irrigation. As I mentioned, the effluent is reused in the plant premises itself, and the sludge that we dry it for a 2 weeks period. We have a good climate here in Odisha, sunny and dry. And this sludge, we have also started co-composting to further stabilize and make it suitable for reuse. And currently they are used for soil conditioner and land filling in our low-lying areas. These are the pictures of our FSTP. The layout is well thought of. Along with the treatment units, we also have buildings, we have laboratories. We also generate 10 kilowatt solar power. So we want to make it energy neutral. In fact, when we have planned for 120 numbers of FSTPs in 115 cities, we have already operationalized 113 plants in all in the 111 cities. So remaining will be completed in a month or so. The plant at Bhubaneswar is visited by many people, and so also we monitor it very vigorously. So what we observed is that when we have adopted a settling pump technique tank in the beginning of the process, so it removes most of the COD, and then we expected that the ABR will be heavily loaded, the organic load will be high, but then we find that organic load is very low, and with that we are able to achieve BOD, COD, TSS removal in a very perfect way. As you have already marked, our standards are evolving. The latest one is the NGT order of 2019. That is very stringent one, where it talks about removal of nitrogen and phosphorus, and also very stringent on the fecal coliform one. And the one that I have presented here, we have a lab in our FSTP, so it shows that we are able to remove in most of our FSTPs. It's possible to remove BOD, COD, and TSS. It is possible to also remove part of the nitrogen and phosphorus, and whatever remaining in the effluent is used in the landscape irrigation. In our core treatment facilities, we only establish a settling pump thickening tank, and flow is by gravity. So this is the core treatment plant in one of the city. It's a Puri, is a aerated lagoon STP, and FSTP is integrated. And the result that we get is also meeting the norms. and the discharge happens after chlorination. The cost of the FSTPs in Odisha is also not very high. It's around 3 crores or 30 million Indian rupees on an average. So we have already spent some 300 crores for building all the 120 FSTPs in Odisha. In terms of operation and maintenance, the cost is not very high. In terms of Indian rupees per month, it is always less than 100,000. So for a ULB, the cost is not much. Because it is nature-based system, so most of the cost goes toward the wages of the people, those who are employed there. In fact, in Odisha, we have employed the Mission Shakti group. Basically, they are the women and the transgender group in the operation and maintenance of the vehicle sludge plant. Because it's you can say there is not much of technology or is not mechanical system. So therefore, we are training the community partners in the operation of these plants, and they have been able to successfully maintain the plants. So that is the USP of this program. And these Mission Shakti groups, they are also able to create awareness in the towns and the cities. So they are our messengers. They are the town's messengers. They go to each household. They spread the awareness, the dislodging requirement, and also they are very successful in creating our generation of awareness and also generation of demand for dislodging, and they have been able to successfully operate the plants. So thank you very much for your patience here.
Thank you, Mr. Mahapatra. Just one question I had was that Odisha has been a front runner in septage management in India, and nearly all your cities you have some kind of septage management, either co-treatment or FSTP. And I also understand, and my own experience is that DWATS was transferred from an institutional setting into a city setting. And there was no ready guidance, no ready reference manuals at that time, about 6 years back when you started this work. So it was very appreciable that Odisha government and OWSSB on its own developed its solution. But now having implemented it for 7-8 years, do you feel that something better can be done in future, especially by states which are coastal or which have a coastal climate? For example, the high humidity, would screw press be a better option for dewatering in your case?
Yeah, it's a very nice question. From the experience of what we have monitored our FSTPs, I feel that setting thickening tank is good enough. You not only dewater them quickly, you also be able to remove COD, and then use of dry beds. I will recommend they are better. In fact, in most of the our STPs, we have centrifuges and screw press and all that. But then it will be useful for the cities where you have the skilled manpower and skilled resources when you outsource these activities.
Okay.
But then if you look at the small towns, 50,000 to 100,000, small towns, you may not be able to have the supervision or the skill set for that.
Okay.
And for the sustainability of that, I feel if we can adopt simple technologies, that would be better.
Sure, certainly. Any person, Mr. Lochan, you can, if you have a question, please, Lochan Pupkar, you can unmute and ask.
Lochan, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Thank
Very
you
good
for I am working in sewage treatment plant from last 10 years. Yeah, hello.
Yes,
We are
yes,
listening.
continue.
Yeah, we are listening.
Sir, this technology, it's a hydroid based technology. Is it right? Hello.
Yeah, we are
Hello.
listening. Yeah, please come up with your question.
Yeah, sir. Sir, how much area required to treat 1 kL to 10 kL maximum? 10 kL per day.
See, the land requirement for treatment plant for this, let's say 10 KLD FSTP is not very high. You don't require much land.
Sir, how
In
much
terms,
area required in square
yeah, I'll tell
meters?
you. I'll tell you. In our FSTPs, by design, we have taken 2.5 acre of land, but we need hardly 10 to 20% of land for actual treatment, and rest
10
are
meter cube.
plantations. Yeah, 10 to 20%. And rest are we have constructed elaborate buildings for laboratory, for training purposes, and for the, let's say, panel board for the solar power, and then a drying co-composting set
Hello.
for co-composting. So the treatment components as such don't require much space, because it is only in terms of KLD, some 1,000 liters, 10,000 liters.
Sir, your voice is breaking now. Hello.
If the plant size is only 10 KLD, you don't require much land.
Because sir, I visited too much metropolitan city in Bangalore.
Yes.
Hydroid-based technology, but land area requirement in metropolitan city, there is not possibility to go through hydroid-based, nature-based technology.
True.
So is it possible to, because the in tower system, there is effluent sewage generated start from 2 kl to maximum 50 kl. Maximum
See,
50 kl.
in metro cities, I'll tell you, in metro cities, the quantity of wastewater generated is in millions, hundreds of millions.
No, sir, I am talking about only, no, sir, I am talking about only individual clients as the societies, as the tower systems.
Okay.
We can't discuss one technology and one treatment in detail. This webinar is not for that purpose. So it is to share the experience and the issues and challenges at the larger scale. Now you can put your question in the chat, and then Mr. Prasanta or Dhaval or anyone can answer your question. Otherwise, we can't go through so much content here. So thank you, Mr. Mahapatra. Is Mr. Surasya?
We can continue this.
Srivastavaji, we can continue with your presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, shall I share your screen slides?
Yeah. Please share my PPTs.
Yes, sir, I'm sharing.
Mr. Srivastava is the Additional Mission Director in the Amrut program in UP. And he's a champion of wastewater as well as other programs he's managing.
Before I start, I would like to thank the Pinder and Center for Science and Environment team for giving me this opportunity to speak at this webinar in front of these eminent speakers. Today, I would talk about my voice is coming clearly. You're getting my voice?
Yes, sir, your voice is clear. There was some other disturbance behind. So we'll ask the other people to mute their mic. You please carry on, sir.
Today, I would talk about the challenges we faced and the lessons we learned on the journey of fecal sludge and septic management in the Uttar Pradesh. As we know, Uttar Pradesh is a very highly populated state in India, very densely populated, and state is still learning, trying to adopt best practices from other states. States like Odisha, who have already made huge leaps in their FSM journey. We are just trying to adopt the practices which Odisha were already done long back. To start with this presentation, I would like to tell that the first FSTP came in the Jhansi city, Jhansi town, with the capacity of 6 KLD. In the Bundelkhand region, the entire strata is rocky. There is a hard rock beneath earth. So the sewerage network could not be laid in the Bundelkhand region, including Jhansi and Lalitpur and Urai. So the FSTP and FSSM is the best option in the Bundelkhand region. Similarly, in the Mirzapur, Chunar region, there is some belt is a rocky belt. So there is also the FSSM is the best option there. And as we know, the land issue is very problematic in the big cities. For the STP, we need a big land, we need a very capital investment, and there is a lot of digging involved in this sewerage network laying. So it is very difficult to cope this issue to meet the challenge of the sewerage through the STP system. So in 2018 and 19, the Uttar Pradesh adopted the FSSM policy, and in the Amrit scheme, the 56 towns were taken in this for the FSCP projects. And 3 to 4 towns could not be taken because there was some land issue. This was also due to the fact that Amrit had funding for FSTP co-treatment. However, the funding was only for the capital expenditure and procurement of septic tank cleaning vehicles. As the concept of FSSM was new in UP, the technology option was kept as open-ended. Successful bidders were allowed to implement their choice of technology as long as they was vetted by competent authority. For operation and maintenance of the plants, the contractor selected on DBOT, design, build, operate and transfer mode, had to recoup the amount by providing desludging services in the town. The amount for both operation and maintenance of plant and desludging services was restricted to a maximum of rupees 2,500 per household for a maximum of 5,000 households in a year. The list of these households had to be provided by the local government. But due to prevalence of demand-based desludging, urban local body was unable to give prior data for household that required desludging, as well as they were unable to pay the contractor amounting to minimum 1.25 crore per year. This was a challenge which we came to know after the operations of the plant commenced. In the next slide, I think go to the second slide, where we you can see in Uttar Pradesh there are 39 FSTP plants and 21 co-treatment projects were sanctioned, and 2 were funded by NMCG, National Mission for Clean Ganga, Chunar and Bijnor. And 1 ULB, Bakshi Ka Talab in Lucknow, Nagar Panchayat, it was funded by ULB. So approximately 60 FSTP and co-treatment plants were sanctioned through Amrit and NMCG. In the third slide, please, next. We are discussing the challenges. As you can see in the slide, there are so many challenges. Approach road was one of the challenge, land was the challenge, and technical issues at the plant, lack of regulatory framework. Because in urban local bodies, if we have to implement anything, then there should be a bylaws, which is that is a regulatory compulsion. Because in the ULBs, small ULBs, there is no competence to prepare the bylaws. So with the help of CSE, we have prepared the bylaws. So for the help of small ULB, so that they can operate and maintain their FSTP and impose their charges for the services. COVID was also one of the challenge. Almost 2 years we couldn't start our so many projects due to COVID. So these were challenges, and please go for the next slide. How we could able to address the challenges. So first we acknowledge the challenges, identify the priorities, set achievable goals with milestones, communicate clearly and regularly, monitor and progress, the address nagging issues. So that's way we could able to meet the challenges, but still we are on the way, and we are trying to operate and maintain successfully the plants of FSTP. Next slide. Absence of proper network guidelines. So as I already is known that many LBs have not notified dislodging fees, lack of clarity on roles and responsibility of different stakeholders, no monitoring of private operators, lack of clarity on operations and maintenance of plant and dislodging fees. Issuance of state model FSSM bylaws for cities to draft their own bylaws. We have issued the model bylaws to the ULBs so that they could able to change some in their draft as per their local requirement, and put their bylaws to their elected local body for the Gazette notification. And hand-on training of ULBs on preparing bylaws. We have conducted so many workshops in headquarters in Lucknow, and at the regional level also, with the help of CSE, to make them skill and technical know-how how to operate their plants. Inadequate septage, the treatment plant. Actually, the biggest challenge is the septage. The required amount of septage is not coming to the plant still, because there are the operators are in the habit to take the fecal sludge from the household, and they drain out in the lane, in the drains or in the open land. So we are trying to punish them, identifying that type of operators. So we are trying to identify the private operators. We are operating in the cities, and registering them in the local bodies licensing system, so they could become an instrument for the our FSTP system. Listing of bulk operators, the community toilets, public toilets, institutional building, government housing colonies, colleges and hospitals, promoting periodic discharging from the above list, awareness generation from citizens for regular emptying of the septic tanks, discharging services to urban poor at subsidized rate, part of model state bylaws. So these are the intervention adopted or proposed. Next slide. The unregulated private operators are the main issues, because majority of ULBs have private discharging operator to provide septic tank service to household. They discharge the emptied septage into open land or water bodies. They are mostly unregulated. Push ULBs for identification and registration and licensing of private operators. Forms format available in model bylaws document. Encourage ULBs for fixing discharging fees in consultation with the private operators and other stakeholders. Next. This is the researching plan is something which we are pondering to implement in 1 to 2 towns as a pilot. If it succeeds, then we may think of further implementation in other towns. The challenges are plenty. The roads to sustainability is a long one, but we will continue to strive for it every single day. With this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Srivastavaji. Thank you for taking time and coming for the webinar and the Apne Jo program on Friday. It was very well organized and with more than 50 urban local bodies coming together for the event in Lucknow. Thank you, sir, for coming. We have Mr. Chaurasia also now gracing us the webinar. I would like to ask Mr. Chaurasia to come in now and say a few words about the priorities of the ministry in terms of both toilets as well as septic management, please. Aapka hai, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dependerji, and thank you for opportunity. I thank CSE for organizing regularly such type of good webinar because it is directly serving the purpose we are working for. So I think it is a commendable job. I thank international and national speakers also because definitely they are also directly helping in this cause. As regards this Swachh Bharat Mission journey of saturating toilets in country is concerned, we are aware, many of us are aware that with launch of Swachh Bharat Mission in 2014, that is Clean India Mission, huge emphasis has been given to, let us say, eradicate open defecation. Earlier, globally, whatever the people were defecating, around 60% were in India. But now it has gone virtually nil, maybe in few places, incidentally, sometimes it is happening, otherwise it is fully saturated. But we have realized in the course of implementation of this toilet scheme that many households, either they are inconveniently connected with at long distance with CTPT, or some of them who are having even the toilet facility, they are not so good standard. So emphasis under this second mission, that is continuation of first mission, is we are focusing on identifying those households which need upgradation of their toilet, and even in community and public toilet, where emphasis is needed on their functionality as well as operability. In both these cases, we are finding that many places coverage is there, but if you enter the CTPT, the standard level, international standard or international level, I will say, cleanliness is lagging in many cases. So in this case, we are emphasizing not only saturating this toilet use and CTPT to international standard, even beyond that, because recently that JMP team was here and they discussed and they found that many steps Government of India is taking, and especially in case of upgrading toilet use and also the use of use experience plus promoting various models, they are even the above that international benchmarks in many cases. So this challenge we are definitely going to overcome, but the main challenge that is coming in our many cities are very thickly populated, and getting land for even CTPT is a challenge. Even in first phase, we have provided enough money, but when it comes for construction, many states, they could not utilize fund and they returned saying that we have saturated. But the reality behind it in many places is that they could not identify proper land, suitable land, and because of that, they were not able to implement it. Because of that, the people in that area is still getting some sort of inconvenience, although they are connected and they are using, but the level of comfort they require, that is somewhere missing. So one important area that we are looking for, that international models at any place, if it is available, that in a densely populated area, what model should be there, so that we can convert, let us say, some shop or some other facility where even this toilet facility can also run and other facility can also run. So this is one area where we are trying to find solution, and in this respect, a series of workshop also we are doing. We are various partners also. Recently, we have launched a partners forum where we are encouraging even NGOs, PSU, government partners, or even individual to join on that forum and suggest their innovation, their view, their experiences. So that will help to strengthen this toilet journey and accelerate this change for safe sanitation. Another thing I would like to mention here, that the government of India that has taken a very important step, I will tell, is that apart from that usual CTPT, we are going for aspirational toilet at many places, because in Indian strata, some people are having even good business entity, and then they are from professional side. So different strata people are there requiring different sort of toilet for usages. So in that case, aspirational and innovative sort of things are also we are promoting, and already around some 25,000 such toilets we have going to be implemented or at various stages of implementation. Another thing we are keeping view is that sanctioning toilet and providing this facility is not the end of it. We are closely monitoring through various mechanisms. As many of you know that in India governance is at 3 levels, one at central level, national level, that is another state level, and third is at ULB level. This sort of facility basically is a responsibility at ULB level, and many places where they required handhold and this sort of support. So we are monitoring fairly through various apps also. Citizens, when they are using, they give feedback also, and also there are certain protocols for certification. They are some of them are very exhaustive, that is covering not only toilet usage but different type of experiences and also sustainability also. So that way we are trying to saturate. And the last thing I would like to mention, apart from that, we are also going for mechanized cleaning of septic tank and these sewers, so that human entry in our hazardous cleaning, I think, on these things can be completely eradicated. For that, a number of vehicles and even equipment and machinery sanctioning, and states are definitely procuring that. And on that part, I would like to also mention that intensive behavior change campaign has also been taken. These all things are yielding, but in spite of that, I would like to mention that huge opportunity still exists in country to take sanitation experience to a higher level. And in that case, the various partners connecting to Government of India and helping sharing their experiences, including private partners, NGO, that is the way we have found more feasible, and we are welcoming. So whosoever want to connect, we welcome. Please get connect with us and share that what we can do for improving this sanitation, including treatment and all sustainability aspects. So thank you, Davinderji. Thank you. CSE.
Thank you, Chaurasiaji. And we wish we had more time, then we could have had a longer conversation. But the whole idea, Chaurasiaji, was that we focus on some of the emerging challenges and issues in this section. And we will be very happy to work with you and CPHEO on taking forward some of the 3 agenda and priorities which you have shared. And we will, please, if you can stay till the end. There is only one more presenter after you, and then we will try and have a quick wrap up after that. Thank you, sir.
Yes, but thoda sa I will request, because I'm in midst of meeting, and that's why I have taken out time, because I don't want to be defaulter, because after committing 1 month long back. But you understand, a series of engagements has come, and there is very little time available, where all the states and other people are coming. So we want to meet us so that everybody is benefited. So I request, please excuse.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
I
If
understand your priorities.
email, I will be able to respond. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Now we have Dhaval Patil now, and our brief to Dhaval was that since he is a young professional who has, worked in different states of India. So on this issue of FSDPs, what has been the experience, performance, any comments or, any suggestions or review, that would be really helpful, Dhaval. So please carry on.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this webinar and allowing me to share my thoughts about which I've gained over experience of designing and visiting various treatment plants across India. So because there is less time, I'll quickly get into my presentation, which is very short. Yeah, I absolutely love what Dr. Linda said. There is a lot of confusion with terminologies and a lot of words are thrown around. And a lot of times I feel fecal sludge and septage, these two words, at least in India, are used interchangeably. Well, I too have done that in the past, but while designing the systems, the most important thing is the characterization of what is going to come to your treatment plant. In most of the cases where we have done our own sampling and experiments, and from various studies which have been carried out across India, I have come to a conclusion that the COD to BOD ratio is more than 5, which indicates that the sludge has been digested to a certain extent. Definitely, it is not as same as the fresh wastewater which comes out of the toilet. Then the TSS to COD ratio is more than 0.45, which indicates that there is a higher settleable COD, which Mr. Mohapatra also said that settling thickening tank is helping them to lower the COD significantly. And this is the reason why the settling process or a simple sedimentation process is able to reduce the COD significantly. Another thing which we have also realized that the volatile solid content is very less, which doesn't make energy recovery feasible in most of the cases. And one thing which has been very difficult for most of the treatment plant operators and even for the designers is the variation in the COD to nutrient ratio. This ratio is very important for biological treatment of the supernatant or the liquid fraction of the septage which is collected from the septic tanks. Due to this variation, the biological activity doesn't remain active enough even if load is coming to the plant. Hence, a little bit more knowledge about the operation of even the non-mechanized treatment systems is a little important during the operation and maintenance. In India, there are various treatment units which have been put together to form a treatment plant. I usually don't use the word technology because technology is something which is put together and packaged already. But as a designer, I prefer that I understand what I want to treat, what is the end need, and then put together different treatment units which serve the purpose. So for solid liquid separation in India, there are settling thickening tanks, anaerobic digesters. Although digester is used for digestion and stabilization, they are also being used for solid liquid separation to some extent. Unplanted and planted drying beds are also used for dewatering and drying. So solid liquid separation does happen there. Geotube and screw press. There is also a confusion between which I have seen from my practice that solid liquid separation and dewatering, these are not interchangeably used words. Dewatering is different and solid liquid separation is different. And solid liquid separation essentially helps to reduce the quantum of sludge, or rather the thickened sludge, which we get after solid liquid separation, it helps to optimize the sizing of the planted drying beds or all the solid fraction treatment units. For liquid fraction, there is all the treatment units from the LOMVATs or DVATs family: anaerobic baffle reactor, upflow filter, planted gravel filter. There are even mechanized technologies which have been implemented in India, such as MBBR, SBR, and all of them have been followed by tertiary treatment essentially to remove pathogens, where polishing pond, sand filter, activator charcoal filter, chlorination, ultraviolet radiation, and in certain cases even ultrafiltration has been used. The reason why it has been used will be clear after the next slide. And for solid fraction treatment, usually drying platforms, of course, planted unplanted drying beds are used. Solar drying houses are used. Co-composting is another method which is being tried and tested. Then pyrolysis omniprocessor and combustion-based omniprocessor. These are also sort of plants which have been operational for a long time in India. So why the tertiary treatment has been deployed in all the FSTPs, most of the FSTPs. So while designing the FSTPs, usually what is expected is we meet the stringent NGT norms. National Green Tribunal, they have sort of suggested the parameters which you can see in the third column. Earlier, Ministry of Environment and Forest had given the parameters which are in the first column, which you can see are very lenient. Then in 2017, NGT specified. Then MOEF again came up with another norms which are in the last column, you can see. Currently, the state is Central Pollution Control Board in India has mandated the parameters which you can see in the last norm. But because of the confusion where NGT has been sort of sending out notices to the urban local bodies, a lot of urban local bodies and consultants are pushing for a very stringent norms, which makes the treatment process or the cost of treatment very high. My personal sort of comment on this is the old norms, MOEF 1986 norms, are good enough for FSTPs, fecal sludge treatment plants or septic treatment plants. And that is because the volume or the mass of BOD, COD and TSS which is handled by these plants is significantly less. So the water which is coming out, even the volume of that water is very less, and it can be easily reused in the plant premises or in a restricted manner somewhere, which Odisha state has been doing. So in such cases, lenient norms are much better, and I would re-quote, because I really liked it, Mr. Stephen, that 100 plants with 30% efficiency are more effective than 10 plants with 90% efficiency. And it is very true. Just making the norms stringent doesn't mean that we are going to increase the pollution abatement significantly in the environment. Having more plants with at least primary or a little bit secondary treatment will also help us to achieve a significant progress for pollution abatement. In case of solids treatment chain, there are no standards which have been prescribed by Central Pollution Control Board or even the state pollution control boards, and hence usually when the FSTPs are designed, the solids treatment chain consists of mostly dewatering and drying process. In a lot of cases, I have seen that sludge drying beds are put before the solid liquid separation or as a solid liquid separation unit, which inherently increases their size. Like a huge sludge drying beds have to be made because they are then designed for the hydraulic use. In cases, I have also seen that during operation, the sludge loading rates are not even. A lot of times I have seen that the sludge is dumped onto the drying bed of thickness of more than 30 centimeters, and then it is allowed to dry over a period of time. Whereas most of the times sludge drying beds need to be loaded in an incremental manner so that after 5 days again you can load the same bed. and then incrementally you reach to 30 centimeter. But that is not the case. In most of the cases, the design is done in a way, in the right way, but the sort of capacity building of the operators is a lot of times missing. The NFSM, the National Fecal Sludge Management Policy, which was published in 2017 by MOHUA, recommends that for solids, we should have MSW Rule 2016. MSW stands for Municipal Solid Waste Management Rules. And in these rules, the standard is for municipal compost. Now, these standards are not directly applicable to these solids, because these solids, although they do contain NP, and organic carbon, but they do not contain to the extent or to the concentration which is prescribed under MSW rules. And hence, a lot of times there is neglect towards treating the solids or the thickened sludge completely at most of the FSTPs. They only look after the liquid treatment part because that is sort of mandated by the pollution control boards. Now, coming to the design capacity, across India, there have been more than 400 FSTPs of various capacities. And in a lot of places, I have seen that the design capacity of FSTPs are less than 10 or 15 KLD. My personal comment on this would be they should be avoided for two reasons. One, that it has low or no return on investment. The cost which is put, not just the capex, but even opex cannot be recovered through the desludging fees or the taxes in smaller towns. Rather, DRE or land application in restricted areas is much better to sort of handle these cases. In certain states where the transportation, collection and transportation of the fecal sludge and septage has been regulated, like in case of Odisha, in those cases, the 10 and 15 KLD plants are also running fantastic. And the reason is because the sludge is reaching there, and daily 10 to 15 KLD of load is getting treated. So unless and until we sort of focus on taking the fecal sludge and septage from the household containment units to the treatment plant, we should not be heavily investing into the treatment facilities, which are very small. Also, over designing of FSTPs is seen in most of the cases. The numbers are taken from either the IS Indian standard codes or from the foreign or from the literature which is in the foreign context. However, a great deal of literature or research has not been done on what is the fecal sludge or septage generation. So we use usually collection method to sort of optimize the design capacity. So in case of over designing, of course, we know that it will have an impact on the financial sort of economics of the whole plant, or rather the whole system. But its impact on the operation is also very huge. Balancing the F2M ratio, F2M stands for food to microorganism ratio in the biological treatment units, is very critical for maintaining its efficiency. And when the load, you have designed the plant for a higher capacity and you are feeding it at a lesser rate, which affects the whole microbial concentration in these reactors, and eventually the efficiency is not, it does not peak up as it has been designed. So over designing of FSTPs is also not recommended in most of the cases. Yes. So implementation and OM, this is my second last slide. So a lot of times we have seen that the DPRs or the detailed project reports and the design and the good to construction drawings are made very nicely. However, when they are translated onto the ground, the contractors, because they are not very, most of them are civil contractors, they are into construction business. They don't understand the implication or impact of say not giving 1% slope to the constructed wetland. So there are these small nitty-gritties, especially when we are talking about non-mechanized systems such as DVATs and sludge drying beds, etc. These small pointers are very important, and if these things are neglected at the implementation stage, they create a lot of problem at the operation and maintenance stage. A lot of times we see that the constructed wetland, the clogging happens and the hydraulic flow inside the wetland or the planted gravel filter gets affected. And you can see that some plants are dying, some plants are very nicely growing. Also, the efficiency also gets disturbed a lot. So, operation maintenance is also very important, and giving a proper care to during the implementation stage is also very important. And this is my last slide. And I had actually put this slide, and I was expecting some of the fellow speakers would speak about it. But good that I got something new to share with our audience. That occupational health and safety, usually this is seen as the last aspect of running any system. However, if we approach occupational health and safety in a very scientific way, the hierarchy of control measures suggests that safe design of the treatment unit or a treatment plant is the first way to either eliminate or significantly reduce the hazard and the risk involved. For example, we all know or we perceive like biological hazard is the biggest when it comes to sanitation. However, if the design of the treatment plant or the treatment unit is good enough, then the biological hazards they are completely eliminated or they can be significantly reduced. So during design of the treatment facilities as well, occupational health and safety, this one factor needs to be taken into consideration. It shouldn't be that only providing PPE and mandating usage of PPE at the end of the system helps to keep our sanitation workers safe. So with this, I end the talk and the floor is open for any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhawan. I would just open it up for any Q&A. I don't want to take up any time. So if any participant who still had some questions related to all the presentations, you are please free to raise them so that we will conclude with your questions. Thank you. Please raise your hand so that we know who has a question. Ajit?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, Dhavalji had mentioned saying that if the flow is less than 10 or 15 KL, not to have the STPs. But there are many cases, small users, they are not familiar with high-tech devices. But the best is they go in for adapted septic tanks. And DVATS gives this very nicely. It's an adapted septic tank. And even a farmer, even a simple cycle mechanic can tackle the problems in a DVATS plant. And it is the most ideal for small users. So what is your take on that, please?
Ajitji, I completely agree with you. DVATs, when it comes to wastewater management, completely makes sense at a decentralized level. However, my comment was more on the FSTP end, that FSTP of 10 to 15 KLD, where fecal sludge and septage is collected from the septic tanks essentially and brought to the plant. In those cases, treatment plants, as we see in India, they are facing a major problem that they have a huge plant, but the waste is not coming to the plant because demand desludging is happening. The demand is not more. Certain states have done it very beautifully. They have looked at it very holistically. We saw in Mr. Prasanta's presentation as well how they have taken a very holistic approach to not just maintain the treatment plant, but look at the complete value chain of FSSM. So that would be my response to you.
Thanks a lot. And I just want to have just 2 more minutes just to say that we did observe in Delhi in the 2000, and there were some plants grant by JICA, and Japanese officials were visiting the STP plants in Faridabad, and they were finding it a big problem to dispose of the sludge from the STP, from the municipal STP. And they were trying to auction it, they were trying to give money for contractor to lift it, and they could not do. Somehow, one of the contractors was also a kiln operator. I just want to make a mention that he was very bold. He was actually operating a brick kiln, a very big brick kiln in near Bahadurgarh, very near to Delhi. And mud was available and he was making brick. So he saw that the sludge contained a lot of methane in it. And also the matter was little bit of the combustible type. So what he did was he boldly went and bid for the auction, and at a very low rate he was able to get truckloads of the sludge from the municipal sewage treatment plant, taken to the kiln. It was burnt in the kiln as a fuel to start with. Then the ash also was mixed up with the mud and put in the bricks. And of course, there's some senior professors had come forward and said, "Do you want to test the bricks and find out?" They tested the bricks also and found the bricks to be quite good. So I just want to open up this research and development venue for fecal sludge and STP sludge from municipal sewage treatment plants, that they can be used as a fuel to start with, and later can the ash also be mixed with clay and used as brick, because it provided a lot of insulation value, and bricks were quite strong also. Oh, thank you very much
for this comment. I don't think anyone will disagree with that. So let's proceed. Is there any other question by any other participant?
Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't think there is any other question, and on behalf of CSE, I would just like to thank all the panelists, starting with Linda, Stephen, Prasanta ji, Srivastava ji, Chaurasia ji, and Dhawan Patil. For us, it's an informal learning and discussion. We will share these presentations with everyone who came and registered for this, and we look forward to working with all of you again in future. And thank you once again from our side. Thank you very much.
Thank you for organizing.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.